Variety has just dropped a bombshell investigation into Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's.
He's had enough. He wants to clean the monarchy, and it's all now in the hands of the courts. Meghan Markle is in full mode panic along with Harry because they both know what they did.
What if the biggest threat to the British monarchy wasn't a scandal, wasn't a headline, but a single legal phrase, hidden in plain sight for over 300 years? Before you go, something at the end might just change the way you see this. If you're enjoying the video, please consider subscribing. It's completely free, and it genuinely helps us create more of what you love. Stay with us till the end. You won't want to miss this. A phrase so simple, yet so powerful, it could decide who belongs and who doesn't. Born of the body. Right now, that phrase is no longer just history. It's being tested in court. And what's happening could quietly reshape everything people think they know about inheritance, legitimacy.
Maybe King Charles didn't want to do anything about it given what's going on with Andrew, but in order for William to save the monarchy, he has to deal with the Archie and Lilibet problem.
And even the monarchy itself. Because just days ago, a case emerged that most people completely overlooked. No massive headlines, no global outrage, just a quiet legal move with massive implications. The Marquess of Bath, one of Britain's aristocrats, has gone to the High Court, not over business, not over politics, but over his own son.
People think her kids are fake. They think they're AI.
I'm going to quote Tom Bauer by saying, he said, look, we all laughed at Samantha and she was right. And everything she said has come true.
A 9-year-old boy, born through surrogacy in the United States. And now, his right to inherit a $157 million estate is being questioned.
Something is happening right now in the courts, which is incredibly important, and nobody's paying attention to it because this will make history, and not in a good way for Meghan Markle.
Not because he isn't loved, not because he isn't recognized by his parents, but because of the way the law is written. Old trusts, old language, old assumptions. Rules created long before modern medicine, long before surrogacy, long before families looked the way they do today. And according to those rules, if a child is not physically born from the mother, the system may not automatically recognize them.
Trevor put an article out there that Meghan had a hysterectomy and couldn't have children. And that was a big issue in their relationship. So that says a lot to the fake royal kids right now, because obviously they couldn't have come out of her. So that's something that she obviously is going to have to deal with.
Let that sink in. In 2025, a child can be biologically yours, legally yours, emotionally yours, and still face uncertainty because of a phrase written centuries ago. Now, here's where everything changes, because this isn't just a private family issue. This is a legal precedent. And once a precedent is questioned,
she had a lot of health issues and she couldn't have one of her children. So they had to use a surrogate in the United States. Why the United States? Because in the United Kingdom, the children, even though through a surrogate, belong to the surrogate.
It doesn't stay contained, it spreads. People begin connecting dots because the same concept, born of the body, doesn't just exist in private inheritance law. It exists at the very heart of the British monarchy, going all the way back to the Act of Settlement in 1701.
The Marquess of Bath was open and transparent about this. So she is right now going through the legal process because as per the Peerage Act of 1963, that child born in the United States from a surrogate is not entitled to anything, inheritance or any.
For over 300 years, this principle has defined the royal line of succession. Not influence, not popularity, not public image, but birth. Clear, documented, verified birth. That's why royal births were never just personal moments. They were public events, structured, witnessed, recorded with precision, because the stakes were never small. They were constitutional. Every detail mattered. Every step was visible. There was no room for uncertainty. But in recent years, some royal moments have looked different, more private, more controlled, less transparent, and for many observers, that shift raised eyebrows. Not because people want drama, but because systems built on tradition rely on consistency, and when consistency changes, questions begin. Simple ones. Who verified the birth? Where was it confirmed? Why did the process look different this time? Not accusations, just questions. But here's the thing about questions. When they don't get clear answers, they don't fade away. They evolve, they grow, and eventually they return stronger than before. And now, because of this court case, those questions are being revisited in an entirely new light, not driven by speculation, but by law.
Meghan Markle has been incredibly quiet about the birth, but mostly the pregnancy of these children. Everything has been shady. The one who's been blabbing and saying crazy things is Prince Harry.
Because the High Court is now dealing with a reality many hadn't fully considered: modern families meeting ancient legal systems, and the system struggling to keep up. A judge has already acknowledged there is uncertainty, not drama, not opinion, legal uncertainty. And if that uncertainty exists for a $157 million estate, what happens when the same principle touches something far bigger? The monarchy, an institution built over 1,000 years, a system where position isn't symbolic, it's defined by law. And law doesn't operate on assumptions. It requires clarity, absolute clarity. Now, reports suggest that within royal circles, there is increasing awareness of how important that clarity is.
And then when the baby was born, when Archie was born, that was another, in my view, a disaster, because I knew we was not going to get a picture of it. Everybody was hoping we would get pictures of it.
Because the future of the monarchy depends on stability, on trust, on the idea that the system works exactly as defined. No confusion, no gray areas. Because even small uncertainties at that level.
Remember, Meghan actually refused to use the hospital that was usually used by royals and refused to use all of the normal medical staff. And there was all of the weirdness over the timing of the birth of Archie.
Can grow into major constitutional questions. And this is where things become uncomfortable. Because once a legal framework is challenged in one place, it invites scrutiny everywhere. And people start asking, are the rules still fit for today's world? Can a system built in the 1700s fully handle the realities?
We've had Harry on Spare talking about, how Meghan Markle, how complicated it was, how they went to the hospital, how Meghan Markle had to have 2 epidurals. We know all of that is BS. We know all of that is a lie.
Of modern families. And if not, what needs to change? Or more importantly, what happens if nothing changes? Because the truth is, this isn't just about one family. It's not about personalities. It's not even about headlines. It's about a system facing a moment it can't ignore. A moment where tradition meets reality, and reality doesn't always follow tradition. At the center of all of this is one simple idea: consistency. If rules exist, they must apply equally. If standards matter, they must be clear. Because without that, questions don't just remain, they multiply. And when questions multiply around something as significant as the monarchy, they don't stay quiet forever. They demand answers, real ones. And that's exactly why this moment differs differently. For years, conversations like this were pushed aside, dismissed, ignored. But now,
this scandal comes as no surprise. Speculation about the children has been simmering for years.
A real case in a real court has brought the core issue into focus. And once something reaches that level, it can't be ignored anymore. So the real question isn't just what's happening right now. The real question is, what happens next? Because if the law begins to adapt, the system changes. And if it doesn't, the pressure builds. Either way, something shifts.
Silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample or proof of delivery. If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. This is what it is.
Meghan, a geriatric mother. The family claims and states that Meghan had a hysterectomy. How can a woman with a hysterectomy be pregnant? And most of all, why did the royal family go along with this? And what's going to happen now that this has come out?
And maybe
So Prince
that's why
William
this story
knows
matters
that the
more than
crown
it
cannot
seems.
keep making
Because
the same mistakes
sometimes
in the
the
past,
biggest
that
changes
nobody
don't
who
start
is
with
not
loud
working
scandals.
royal
They
can
start
hold
quietly, in courtrooms, in legal language, in phrases no one paid attention to until suddenly they meant everything. And right now, that's exactly where we are, watching a centuries-old system face a very modern question. And for the first time in a long time, people aren't just watching the monarchy.
At this point in time, King Charles doesn't understand that he cannot continue having Harry and Meghan on the British monarchy's website when they are absolutely trashing the very same institution and using titles for commercial purposes, which is basically repeating the same pattern that Sarah Ferguson has done and even Andrew did. That has to stop.
They're thinking about how it actually works and whether it still works the way it was designed to.
And William has ordered an open investigation into Lilibet and Archie's birth because he knows that that cannot be hanging over the head of the monarchy, over his reign.
Because if one phrase can decide everything, then understanding that phrase changes everything. And maybe the most powerful question of all is this: if the rules are so clear, why does everything suddenly feel so uncertain? And when that uncertainty finally meets clarity, what will it reveal?